Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. I'm Shreya Johandial. 48 hours after flash flood swallowed Nepal, killing at least 300 people, and the official figure right now stands at 359, a video is emerging that is giving Nepal and the rest of the world some hope in these dark hours. Let's pull out these pictures of a miraculous rescue that has been caught on camera in Nepal. In a remarkable operation, ladies and gentlemen, the Nepalese army has rescued a newborn baby from beneath the rubble. These dramatic pictures capturing the tense rescue as army personnel carefully pulled out this tiny baby to safety. Now, ladies and gentlemen, also, as you see these pictures of this young chota sa baby being rescued out of the rubble, there's been another miraculous rescue. A 2-year-old child has also been pulled alive from beneath the rubble. Let's put out those pictures for you as well. These are the rescuers in Nepal. I can see an army uniform there. So this is the Nepalese army. This is the Nepalese police. They've obviously heard a baby cry, and they pull out this baby from under the rubble. What exactly is the rubble is still unclear, but the baby has been pulled out. And ladies and gentlemen, just look at this miracle here. This baby is not crying. Nothing. Look at the resilience. She's crying calmly. She's not crying. She's calmly just come to the arms of the rescuers and is looking here and there, possibly looking for her parents. Now, it is still unclear whether the little baby who was rescued, and you saw the newborn being rescued as well, and this 2-year-old girl, whether they are related, they are not related, what their names are, or where exactly this rescue has happened from. But this is a rare moment of hope amidst widespread destruction. As I said, getting better, not just this young 2-year-old being rescued, but can we put the newborn baby as well, who has been rescued? So that newborn baby being rescued, this 2-year-old being rescued, ladies and gentlemen, this is, what can I say? This is, you know, one happy thing, one positive thing amidst the darkness that has enveloped the whole of Nepal. As we see these pictures, ladies and gentlemen, the debris is settling and the real scale of death and devastation is now becoming clearer. 289 people are confirmed dead. At least 1,400 are missing. Amongst them, 288 Indians. Many of those missing are pilgrims who were at the Nepal-China border when the glacial collapse in Tibet triggered devastation in Nepal. Many of the yatris were at the Tibet-Nepal checkpoint in Gairong, from where they entered Tibet and then trekked to the Kailash Mansarovar. That's the exact area. The Isha Foundation has confirmed that 77 of its members were at the Gairong Immigration Center when disaster struck. And when disaster struck, the exact moments were caught on camera. The Sadhguru, who is in the region, said search and rescue operations are on, but they are facing multiple challenges, including a complete loss of connectivity. Now, the MEA has confirmed that at least 288 Indian citizens remain uncontactable. These include 73 Indian nationals who were actually working in the Trishuli 1 power project. Remember, this entire area, this entire network of rivers is dammed. There are hydroelectric dams in the entire region. 13 of them have been completely devastated. The MEA now confirming that 21 tourists from Tamil Nadu have been contacted and are fine. In fact, a reporter on the ground, Kritika, has spoken to some of them from Tamil Nadu. Let's quickly listen in.
21 tourists who were on their way to the Mansarovar pilgrimage have been rescued. This information has been confirmed, and in fact, we're currently being joined by the group as well who have survived the catastrophic flash flood that occurred right in front of their eyes. In fact, before I speak any further, I'll bring you straight the voices of the people who were able to survive this. They say that they climbed up steep hills for non-stop 45 minutes in order to save their lives.
Around 8:30, 8:45 morning. In a matter of 15 minutes, everything was wiped away. Right. But only our vehicle was survived. I think it's a God's wish, I think. Right. And we had a terrible time climbing the rock terrain. And overnight we stayed there. The next morning the army came and rescued us.
We saw some blast, something blast sound. Suddenly got the water, we were just in the river was running. Suddenly it was heavy running waters, slushy waters. Going very forcefully, it was started going.
All the debris, everything.
The debris, everything. Not debris, only water force, with the pressure. Then by the pressure. So suddenly I saw that within seconds, I was at the backside the van. So I saw the backside. So when the water was going, it was just pulling away the lamp post. It was going.
As per information currently available, there are 288 Indian nationals who remain uncontactable. These include 73 Indian nationals who are working on Trishuli 1 power project. Our embassy in Kathmandu is in touch with the project head to get more details about these people. As you well understand, that communication lines in that area, they are totally disrupted, and therefore it has been difficult to get in touch with people on ground.
Profound sense of pain and regret. I wish to bring to your notice that there has been a terrible flash flood between Tibet and Nepal border. And on the Nepali side, as per the Indian news reports, about 484 people have gone missing. And on this side, we don't have any official information. Morning I left to go there personally, and all phones are off, all telecommunications are down, roads are blocked, we're unable to go there. Looking at the scale of destruction, it looks…
Meanwhile, ladies and gentlemen, India has sent in a second Air Force asset to Nepal carrying some 50 tons of relief, including medicines, food packets, temporary shelters, solar lamps, and hygiene kits. And this this relief from India will continue. We are being told that the Indian Air Force is on standby to carry more relief to Nepal. Ladies and gentlemen, after 48 hours, there's now clarity emerging on what led to the Himalayan disaster in Nepal. The 38 minutes of horror, and that's a visual representation of exactly what happened, started high up in the mountains of Tibet. This happened yesterday morning at 8:40 a.m. That is when it starts in Tibet. This is where a massive chunk of ice and rock breaks off from a glacier about 20 kilometers from the border, from the Nepal-China border. The tumbling mass then pulverizes into water and debris that blocks the Lende Khola river valley, forming a temporary dam. This is just a temporary dam because there is a massive chunk of ice that is blocking the river. That dam, ladies and gentlemen, eventually obviously gets breached, and then it sends a powerful flash flood downstream and completely and absolutely overwhelms the Gairong border crossing that sits on the border of Nepal and Tibet. Ladies and gentlemen, this is where the Kailash Mansarovar Yatris come for immigration formalities to enter Tibet. The high-speed torrent surged directly into Nepal's Rasuwa district. Water levels along the Trishuli river system spiked by 9 meters, that is 30 feet, in just 30 minutes, wiping out absolutely everything that came in its way. Monitoring stations and roads and bridges. Essentially, it swallowed everything, absolutely everything that came in its path. The death toll, ladies and gentlemen, officially stands at 359, but we know that as more bodies are pulled out of the debris, that death toll will rise. But even as Nepal mounts its most challenging rescue and relief operation, a clear warning is now coming from China. China says that in the next 72 hours, Nepal could see another flash flood. Chinese media is reporting a lake of rising water has formed at a site along the China-Nepal border, prompting fears that it could burst its banks and cause more destruction downstream, which means in exactly the same areas where the first flash flood has come. Continued rainfall in the area is swelling the lake rapidly, and the Chinese are warning it could breach in the next 3 days. Let me go across to our guests who are joining us this evening. And before I come to what has happened, why it has happened, etc., I just want to put out the pictures of the two little babies who have been rescued. We know that the death toll is going to cross 500, and that's a very reasonable estimate that one has here, given the fact that officially 359 people have already been declared dead. But Vimlendu, as you see these pictures of this little baby, newborn baby, we are told, being rescued from the debris. Then there is that little 2-year-old. God knows that he sent this little child with a lot of resilience, because clearly she has been under the rubble and the debris for some time. I'm assuming that this is a piece of cardboard that the rescuers have, managed to remove, and they're pulling her out of there. And just look at this baby, Vimlendu. Not crying, not screaming, nothing. Just looking around, wondering what has happened, looking around possibly for her parents, but not crying. These, honestly, are the pictures you live for when you are covering disasters like the one we are seeing coming in from Nepal.
Absolutely, Shreya. So it's very, very heartwarming, overwhelming to see that still there are kids who are actually survived, small little babies who've been able to survive such a tsunami of the Himalayas kind of disaster in that sense. But also, we need to also congratulate the response of the Nepalese police and Nepalese army, that within 24 hours, we've actually seen, the kind of response. Of course, we're looking at a huge disaster, and yet they are on ground with very, very limited resources. If you compare what Nepal has in terms of resources, still it has been on the ground. And again, as in, it's still not over, as you rightly said, that the Chinese government has actually said that there could be several million cusecs of water waiting to explode in the next couple of hours, in the sense maybe 24 to 48 hours, because there's a lake formation because of this one in that sense. And therefore, I think it's very, very important. And rather than celebrating, of course, we should celebrate these visuals, but we need to look at that, should we actually live yet another day so that we actually fall in the debris, so that we should be able to take out these kids out alive? Well, rather than actually, waiting for these disasters to happen, I think it's a grim reminder that can we do everything in our command for these situations to not arise. It's not about making someone drop from the 40th floor and say, oh, well, yes, see, he or she has actually survived. So yes, overwhelming, thanks to God that, the child and many such children and elderly have survived this disaster. But we need to really think critically, cynically, constructively, positively, long term, to look at how do we avert such situations in future, not only from the climate change lens point of view, which would largely be environmental, but also in terms of safeguards, in terms of, the early warning systems, both in terms of optimized early warning systems, disaster response, plus every year after year that we talk about in terms of our disaster preparedness or disaster mitigation for Himalayas in that sense, because what we're seeing in Nepal cannot be dismissed or sidelined or pointed only as a Nepal story. It is India's story, it is China's story, it's the entire landscape story. True. It's the entire, the ecology of Himalayas is vulnerable. Climate change or an event would have only triggered it, and only would have compounded it. But is it something which was waiting to happen? Yes. Will this happen again? Unfortunately, yes. Can it be worse than this? Yes, yes, yes. And therefore, that's where I think intelligent scientific thinking linked with governance has to take place at a global level, at a transboundary level, because this is not, as I said, this does not follow political boundaries, geographical boundaries. It's an ecological crisis, ecological distress, climate distress, development distress. Like imagine 13 power plants, 700 megawatts wiped away. So the development where you actually put so many, everything washed away. Correct. And imagine, so therefore, billions of dollars of money, so-called development, what for a day that costs more than 350 lives or perhaps 1,000, and wipes away billions of dollars in a moment.
You know, you
and
talk about...
irreversible, by the way, because you will not be able to erect that lake once again.
We are talking about the Hindu Kush region, right, Professor Anjal Prakash? Now, we've had a conversation earlier, and I just put out some graphics. We just put out some graphics. You had told us that in the entire Hindu Kush area, some 8 countries, it covers 8 countries, there are 25,000 glacial lakes. 240 are highly vulnerable, and 369 are high risk. They are in the Himalayan region, and they are high risk. One of these glacial lakes, the Chinese are telling us, is very quickly filling up. And in the next 72 hours, we are being told that it could breach and once again wreak havoc in Nepal. Do you see that happening? Or are the Chinese simply being cautious and overcautious because there are questions being asked of them that if, you know, this tragedy started with that ice block breaking away in Tibet, why did you not warn Nepal, which is downstream?
Yeah. No, so this is, there are 25,000 plus glacial lakes, which is critical lakes that has been already been identified by ECMOD 2018 report. And then this report is up on the web for everybody to see. So it's not a new knowledge that one is talking about. The IPCC report that I have been part of, in a couple of reports we have in the high mountain chapters that we have been putting this very strongly that these lakes are forming because of the global, I would not use the word warming because now we're going from warming to heating. So the global heating, which is actually the earth is warming up, earth is heating up, and that is leading to this kind of formation that is happening. So what we have to also understand that this is something which is going to happen. It is happening. It's going to happen a lot more. So there are 2 things which is very important. One is the intensity of such events is going to rise in future. Also the severity of the event. What you see on your screen today and the devastating pictures that's coming from Nepal, I haven't seen this kind of things before. There has been some incidences like Chamoli disaster, other disasters in Sikkim has happened, but this is every year that you see the compounding effect that is coming up, and that's something which is alarming. This has already been pointed out by scientists. We would not know when, why, and where, but we definitely know that it's going to happen. Now, the question is, how do we actually monitor? And that's a question that we have discussed earlier, Shreya, also, that these glacier lakes there are numerous of these lakes available all across, and there are geographical boundaries among the countries who has knowledge of these, or they are within the geographical boundaries of the countries. Now, China, for example, is monitoring this lake. India also monitors quite many of lakes. What we actually now, after all the disaster, Chinese are coming up and sharing the data. I only wish that this should have been a mechanism for sharing the information much before the disaster occurs. Now, this disaster is difficult to predict. I understand that also because as a scientist, I have worked in Rasua, I have worked in this area for almost 5 years all across the Himalayan region. And we know sometimes it's very, very difficult because they're not, the satellite monitoring in one part, we also have to have ground swell data. All that has to come together and real-time information has to come in. But it doesn't mean that we cannot do this with all the mites and all the new technology that we have. We can do a lot more than what we are doing now at this moment.
Professor Sumanil Kumar De, the fact is that the Chinese are so advanced, they are building a robotic army. My point is, I'm not sure whether of course, I mean, if you speak to people in the NDMA, they'll give you a very positive picture of how all glacial lakes in India are monitored in 12 of our hill states, and how, everyone is keeping track of exactly what is happening so that we don't see a Chamoli or a Nepal type disaster, etc. My point is, sir, if China can build an army of robots, of humanoids as they are called, am I to believe that they are not keeping track of these glacial lakes that will not just cause damage downhill to Nepal, but cause damage to Tibet itself? Because China being China, no information is coming out of there. They are not telling us how many people are dead, but reports are telling us over 650 people there on the Tibet side are missing.
Yes, thank you very much. See, there is a IUGS working group, which is called Deep Time Digital Earth. And they are collecting all this data, and it is on public domain. You can access it. Now, regarding the question of this glacial lake monitoring, sometimes in Himalayan region, the average annual average temperature increase about 0.28 degrees centigrade. And we have done in the Sikkim Himalaya, it is like that. And at the same time, precipitation has also been erratic in nature, and the trend is also gradually going down. Now we need to do regular this monitoring of these glacier lakes, or not only glacier lakes, how much amount of debris is coming down, how much amount of dam lake, glacial lakes are being formed. By this way, we can monitor glaciers. Number 2 point is that in this Sendai, this disaster risk reduction summit, there was a topic which they most importantly they suggested that you need to prepare the maps, detailed maps of safe zone. Now you see the defect is that in these countries, most of the river banks, when the people has found that some flat land is there, they are occupied by the settlements.
Correct. We are seeing it on the screen, sir. Amazing
Yes.
how densely populated the floodplains are.
Yes, and naturally when this type of disasters will occur, hundreds and thousands of people will wash away through this flash flood and other glacial lake outburst flood also. So we need to prepare the safe zone map, detailed safe zone map, which is still now lacking. Number 2, we need to monitor the climatic events. When any type of cloudburst, although it is unpredictable, but sometimes we can understand through the trend analysis that this type of precipitation during monsoon period may come. So we need to analyze that one.
Sure.
Number 3, yes.
Go ahead, sir. Complete your point.
Yes. Number 3, this out of this 25,000 lakes, how many lakes are vulnerable? We need to analyze on the basis of several parameters. There are different types of glacial lakes. So if we can prepare detailed report of all this one, of course, it is possible to reduce the fatalities. It is possible to reduce the amount of resource loss and all this destruction. So my humble suggestion, in Himalayan region, where you can find any paleo channel which is not active, people are settling over there, and this administration is also allowing them. This is not the way. You have seen in 2025 this Kashmir flash flood. It was in 2024, I think. Then 2023,
Professor Day, Nepal, India, same story. Vimlendu Jha, Nepal, India, same story. I'm just looking at the pictures. Give me a moment here. Just take a look at the pictures. There's one particular picture, and we'll get to it eventually, is where you have the river gushing down, because this is the incoming flash flood. And then you see on both sides of the river, major construction. I mean, everyone, Vimlendu, I come from the hills, everyone knows these pictures. Everyone knows that in the hills that these are eco-sensitive zones. Do not build on the riverbed, right? Look at this visual. Then look at the picture that is coming to us from high up in Tibet. Eight minute. Can we just get to the Tibet pictures as well? Have you seen that 12-story building, that immigration center at the China-Tibet border? I mean, the most dramatic visuals yesterday came from there. And that building stood absolutely no chance. What is the point of having a building like this in an eco-sensitive zone? It's mind-boggling.
Now, this is the point. This is very important.
Absolutely, Shreya. I tweeted about it. We had a...
Mr. Jha, continue. Professor Day, I'll come to you in a bit. Yes, Vimlendu, continue.
Me?
Yes. So, we were talking about it yesterday. Of course, that was the first response that I actually had. Because you know what? As much as we need to actually look at the climate change data, do climate change monitoring, it's almost like pushing it long term in that sense. I think what is needed in situations like these, something that is actually going to bite and hurt us, but is important to do is two things. One is ecological distress / stress that we are causing to an ecologically fragile zone. Look at the kind of construction that is happening, the deforestation that is taking place. When we say that 13 power plants were operating in that stretch, we are celebrating 700 megawatts, but we are not really forecasting that what happens when actually those perhaps 13 dams are actually 13 water bombs that we have actually created that is going to devastate. So we keep saying that when Tehri Dam, unfortunately, if anything happens to Tehri Dam, there'll be water in Rishikesh in 60 to 90 minutes, and Delhi is going to get flooded as well. So when we have that science and that, that perception, and then the second stress point is developmental activities, which we, what we do is that anything that is concrete and cement and steel, we end up calling it development. This is not what is called development. Development is not synonymous to use of cement. We need to look at where is cement or concrete or construction done. If it's actually done in an ecologically fragile zone, which is actually vulnerable to both loss of its own property or loss of itself, or loss causing to another because of the temptation that it causes to a civilization or to a settlement, then this is actually stupid development or anti-development rather than development. Okay. And unless and until we actually fix that ecological distress long term, which means deforestation, which means slope cutting that we're doing, which means large insensitivity shown towards the ecology of Himalayas, and second is the developmental inputs that we are giving so as to improve the standard of living, not just of the people living in the Himalayas, lower or the upper, but also what we want to earn from the Himalayas. At the end of the day, we want to earn from the Himalayas at the cost of the Himalayas, without knowing the carrying capacity of the Himalayas, without caring for the carrying capacity of the Himalayas, and we have got enough, early warning. When we talk about early warning, why are we looking at a machine? Isn't this an early warning so that 2026 should not be there? This is 1 year in advance. The same area was given an early warning last year, 13 months ago. Correct. That when something like this happened. India has got a warning in Dharali, India got a warning in Sikkim, India got a warning in all parts of Himachal Pradesh in the last 2-3 years. You and I would have done at least 4 dozen shows on the kind of climate events triggering, cascading, human life and loss to property and irreversible damage in the last 5 to 7 in 10 years. Okay. But why are we not learning? Why does it become episodic, conversation?
There is long-term warning that you're talking about. I agree with you that 13 months ago, Nepal had been warned because a flash flood exactly like this had come in the region. But Dherekant Datta, the fact is that early warning systems half of the times don't work in India and have completely, it seemed, failed in Nepal as well. In this case, I wonder whether in Nepal questions now are being asked about why was there no early warning? Why could tourists and locals in the region not be warned of this incoming flash flood? There's nothing you can do to stop this flash flood possibly. But could the tourists there, could the locals there have been warned beforehand? And if it started in China, if that glacial melt or the ice block breaking away and hurtling downstream happened in Tibet, did China warn Nepal or did it not warn Nepal?
Okay, thank you. We have to see this status flood in Nepal, the flash flood in Nepal, in 2 ways. The first of all, there is one allegation on China that Chinese personalities did not inform Nepalese authorities about this flood. If they could have informed Nepalese authority, then the damages could have been minimized. But as soon as this Nepalese authority came to know about the flood situation, they disseminated the messages to the lower areas like Dhading, like Trishuli, like Nuwakot, and the damages could have been controlled. But as you asked about the information system, really there was a lapses study. There was a big lapses study that Chinese authorities did not inform the Nepalese authority about this big, we can say, the big disaster. But at the same time, I want to inform you that Chinese embassy in Nepal today in Kathmandu, they denied that this Chinese authority did not inform the Nepalese authority. Okay. They say that this flood came due to the earthquake which came in Tibet, which came in the Nepalese region. Due to that reason, this disaster has come. Huh? So we have to see in this two way that Chinese, if you see that there is already damages in Tibet side also. There has been a lot of damages in Chinese side also. So you have to see in two way that they informed these Nepalese authorities or not, whether they came to know about this is going to happen or not. No, but in the same time, I would like to say that today only the Chinese authority has informed Nepal this type of situation may come, as you have already told.
Yeah. That 72 hours. But Professor Anjal Prakash, what Dhairyakant Datta is saying is very interesting. The Chinese are now officially saying, Professor Prakash, that this catastrophe didn't actually originate in Tibet, as all of us as scientists around the world seem to think, but it actually happened because of some sort of earthquake within Nepal.
Yeah, so
ye kya hua?
No, so Chinese, you have to really see, you're taking a slightly little large pinch of salt if they're saying something, because it is all, and we have seen this is not today's problem, but it's been perennial problem. So we have to see scientifically what is the reason behind it. And for that, we have to wait and watch. First of all, the report has to come, scientific report has to come on what exactly transpired, and then we will see whose responsibility was it. But that remains that the issue is that the lack of cooperation amongst the Hindu Kush Himalayan region countries is a long issue which has been there. And we don't, I have been working in some of these intergovernmental organizations. We know that some countries, and I would not name them, the obvious, most of the data will not come to you because they guard the data as like a gold mine. So that's something which is already there. India also partly shares the data, information with Nepal. And a lot of other countries are there. So this is a conflict-ridden region, as we know, India, China, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, India now. So all these issues remain, and the clarion call that we have at this moment from this disaster is to go above all the politics of the day and then at least share the information that we have. And that's what the bottom line of the story is telling us, that we must now move forward and cooperate, at least in terms of the data that we have, information that we have, and that's where we are failing and we are lacking.
It's pretty amazing what Dhairya Datta is telling us from Nepal this evening. He's a journalist and he's telling us that the Chinese embassy has actually put out a tweet and information that the catastrophe that struck Nepal didn't originate in Tibet. It actually originated in Nepal with an earthquake. Now, the point is that there has been much damage in parts of Tibet as well. How does one explain that? Now, of course, the extent of the damage we don't know, because the Chinese will not say anything. But there are reports that 600 people have died. Pretty amazing what the Chinese are saying, but they are not known to be very truthful. And that's the only thing I'll say at this point of time. Thank you very much. Thank you, Professor Anjal Prakash, for joining us. Dhairyakant Datta, thank you very much. Vimlendu Jha, thank you. And Professor Sunil Kumar De, thank you very much for joining us on our top story this evening. Nepal continues to be a focus right here on Times Now. All the updates right here over the next 10 to 20 hours as the story develops. For the moment, a quick break.